our next guest is we have another science fiction author, and his name is James Hill. Um, he's going to tell us about his book series that he has, and it's more along the lines of, um, well, it has killer in the title of the series, so we'll let him tell you all about it.
Yeah. I
And
will say this, Gwen. I'm glad that book cover is behind him instead of that killer with the three heads book cover.
It, it's a crapshoot sometimes what comes up behind me.
yeah, that was Pegasus, and that's a different series, I guess. A different.
Yeah, we'll go with that one. That was a little bit more G-rated than the killer with the three heads cover.
Okay, so James, tell us about your killer series. You have the killer with three heads, the killer with black blood is due out this summer. That's book 3. And book, let's say, so which one is the killer with three heads? Which one is that? Book 2?
That's book 2. I won't put it
Okay.
up for everybody, but there you go. That's when she says,
Oh,
these are not the
okay.
G-rated books I write.
Okay. All right.
These are more the R-rated. This is the first one. Killer. It's hard to
So
figure out which
what's the
color it
title?
is.
Killer
Killer with
with
a
a
heart.
heart. Killer with a heart. Okay. All
So that's
right.
book 1. Killer with 3 heads is book 2. Killer with
Okay.
black blood would be book 3. It's a
Okay.
4-part series. It's a 4-book series.
Okay.
And
Now,
yeah.
is the killer the same in all the books, or do you have a different killer in each book?
No, it's the same. It's the same 2 people this, that go through the whole story.
Wow.
So one
Okay.
is the gang leader from the South Bronx. I grew up in the South Bronx and in New York in the Bronx. And the other
Okay.
one is a mobster, son of a mobster, and he goes into the mob, of course, as you know, all people do when they're in the mob. They continue in the mob, family
Right.
business. So they go through. It's about their friendship and about how they play off of each other because they are like uh, the same person of a coin, 2 sides of a coin. So the guy from the South Bronx, the black guy, is Morris Mojo Johnson. He picks up the nickname Bulletproof by surviving a mob hit, and his friend Nikki Nails um, is like his best friend. So together they rise in crime, and they become these international criminals and things like. Uh, how does the South Bronx? How does the North Bronx? Knew a lot of people who were into that kind of thing, into that life. And like I said, I grew up in the South Bronx in the 60s and 70s. And therefore, I knew I knew a person who knew a person. Let's put it that way, as they say. I know a guy who knows a guy.
Okay.
Okay.
Now you have women, females on your covers. So is she a character? Is that just a visual
Oh
to draw
no,
people in, or
oh
what
no. The
is the? Okay.
cover tells you about the book.
Okay.
So the females on the cover are integral parts of the story. It's sort of like a
Okay.
James Bond type story, except telling from the criminal side of the thing.
That's actually
Like,
interesting. I like the fact that you're telling from the bad guy's point of view, so to speak.
yeah,
We always see it from the police's point of view, the good person, the victim. I like to hear from the bad side every once in a while.
yeah. Well, what led me to write the story? First off, I had this story rolling around in my head for like years before I actually put it down on paper. How to work it all out, and what really led me to write the story was every time you hear some mobster getting arrested or some gang leader getting arrested or something, you always hear people say, "Oh, but he was such a nice guy." I never knew he was into that.
Right, right.
And so I decided to tell the story of where these people come from. First off, no one just wakes up and all of a sudden you're a mob leader or a
Hmm.
gang leader or something like that. It's
Okay.
usually you grow into that. You start off in crime, smaller crime, whatever kind of crime. You usually start off in crimes in your teens and stuff like that. And you work your way up in the underworld. So that's what the idea behind the Killer series. And you start with these guys when they're teenagers and getting out of high school and whatever, and they've been in crime already. They already doing these different things. And in Killer with a Heart, Nicky decides that he's going to rob a money drop, which is where the mob, it's a mob bank.
Right.
And
Mhm.
they're a rival family, but they're keeping the money in his neighborhood, in his territory. So he figures we can rob them and they'll never know it's me. They'll never know it's us.
Yeah,
And
everybody who that tries that seems like they get caught. But they had that in Breaking Bad, I think. They
it's
were
kind
trying
of
to
like a
rob.
trope in a lot of gang stories and a
It
lot of crime
is.
stories.
Uh-huh.
Because if you ever knew about anybody who robbed a mob bank or robbed from the mob, they do kill you for that.
Right.
Right. Well, I'm
and
sure. I'm sure
and they
they
have ways
do.
to find it out.
It was in something else. Oh, but was it The Wire?
The Wire was good. I used to watch that. That was
Wire was
Everybody used to
good.
watch The Wire,
The Wire
yeah,
was
except
good.
me.
yeah.
But anyway, that is a common thing because they figure they can't call the cops to
Right.
report the money stolen, but they don't need the cops.
No, because
Right.
they have their own police, they have their own
Right,
enforcers,
right. They
Exactly.
have their own
and they all
enforcement.
swim in the same fishbowl. So,
Right.
they're going to know who you are. That's what happens in Killer with a Heart. They have this great plan to rob the place, and they do rob the place. And because it's one family against another, they spark a mob war between the two families,
Okay.
and that kicked the whole series off with this mob war. And of course, Nikki and Morris Mojo, they are criminal elites. By the time they're 18, they're already uh, the top of the food chain piranhas. They are sharks swimming in a goldfish bowl because they're a little crazy. And
Okay.
so
I'm gonna
and
ask a
so
question. It might seem a little offbeat or whatever, but who are some of your influences as far as and I don't mean influence in terms of because as writers we come from our own point of view. But
Right.
who are some authors' work? Let me say this that you
I don't think
admire.
what you're asking is offbeat at all. I mean, because I would like to know what got him interested in
Yeah,
writing this as
right,
well.
right.
well, it's not so much authors. There was of course The Godfather, and then Goodfellows, which was really
Mm-hmm.
good.
I've seen them all.
Casino,
I love those kind of
yeah.
movies.
So
Mm-hmm.
I love mob movies, but I also
Okay.
used to watch a lot of the real life stuff about the mob. And like I said, I knew quite a few people in the mob. One of the people I used to work with, we used to call him the Godfather. It was like what he wanted to be called, but he was deeply in the mob, and I used to drive with him. I used to drive his car, and he got his car from Paul Castellano, Big Paulie. If you don't know about Big Paulie, he was gunned down in front of a Italian restaurant.
On Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember the exact date, but yeah, they were going into the Italian restaurant, and the hit was out on Big Paulie, and they shot him up in front at his car. But my friend got his car, and so I used to drive the Cadillac. He would come down, pick me up, and then we would drive down. We worked in a bank, believe it or not. And uh, he used to tell me that you have to keep a legal job. You got to keep a means of support to show the government. So
Mhm.
he worked in a bank, and I worked in a bank, and so I heard a lot of stories. And one funny thing is, he was actually my mom's friend, but she worked in a bank. He became vice president in the bank. I went to work in her department because I wrote the sort pattern for the bank. When they used to do checks and everything, well, you had to put them through the machine, sort them out, and send them to the different FRBs, Federal Reserve
Federal
Banks.
Reserve Banks. Mhm.
Yeah, and so that's how got moved around. Well, my mom was working on coming up with a more efficient sort pattern, and I wrote the sort pattern for her because I figured out, sort of like playing cards. So I wrote the sort pattern, and of course, the minute I graduated high school, I got the job in the transit department. So,
Oh,
and I
okay.
worked with Pat. Yeah, and I worked with Pat, who was the Godfather.
So it
And
sounds like you're not new to this, you're true to this.
yeah, my ex-wife, when she told me we should show this to the church, and I was like, no, I don't think this is church appropriate. And then she started reading it, and she said, "So this is a faction, right? This isn't fiction." And I was like, "No, no, it's fiction, but there's some truth sprinkled into it. These things
Yeah.
probably could have happened. Not saying they did happen because the storyline is, a good fiction, but this was what would happen to you if you fell in with these type of people."
Well, truth is
Uh,
stranger than fiction. So,
This
yeah,
is
it's the saying and it's true. And some books come from completely from someone's imagination, but then other books, the characters are based on people that the author has encountered. Even there may be a composite, it may not be exactly the same person, but you know, that's where characters come from, real life people, and then you kind of put a spin on it that might
Mhm.
be different from what actually happened. You change some of the details or some of the other people, the other characters that they encounter. You create some different characters to create a dynamic, and that's what you do when you write books. So that's now
absolutely.
is this you have Pegasus behind you, so that was before the Killer series, I guess.
Yeah,
Is it?
actually, I wrote Pegasus. Oh, it got to be almost 30 years now or so. When I actually wrote the story, started the story. Um, I wrote it in the Reagan era, and the reason behind I'm a big science fiction geek. I put in the comments before. I'm also a Trekkie.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
You and my
so
husband would get along really well just talking about Star Trek. Like I said,
yeah,
he's seen
so
every episode of every different Star Trek multiple times.
yeah,
He's
so have I.
binged
yeah.
them all multiple times.
I haven't saw the new ones yet because they're on the CBS whatever all access channel or something, and so
Hmm.
I haven't not really crazy about paying for it, but I've seen
Oh,
all the other ones. I love the one with Picard with the Borg. That was a really interesting one, and
I don't know
so
if
I
I've
go
ever
way
seen a
back.
whole episode of Star Trek. It just didn't. It
I
just
haven't
didn't
either.
grab me. I
I
have
No,
no,
haven't either.
not a whole episode. I know who Captain Kirk is, and I know Uhuru, and I know
Getting
the
beamed
guy
up.
who was a doctor, the guy with the Irish
yeah,
accent is not
Scotty.
Scotty.
Well, Scotty
Okay.
was the engineer. McCoy is the doctor.
See, I told you
Okay.
I don't know anything about. I'm getting names all wrong. I just know Scotty and Dr. Spot, and
Oh, Spock is the Vulcan. Yeah,
Yes.
I can
Everybody
do the
knows
Vulcan
Dr.
salute.
Spock. So,
I forced myself to be able to do it with my right hand, but you're supposed to do it
wait,
with the
oh,
right.
wait.
okay. Is it like
Okay,
this?
Oh,
I can do
yeah.
it with both hands.
What
I'm
do you
good.
do
I'm
with your
good.
Yeah.
thumb? What do you do with your
I'm
No,
not.
thumb?
to
I'm
the
not good.
side, at the side. So
Oh, okay,
hand to
like
the side.
this?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, stop
Can't
before the
play
Vulcans
piano
come
though, but I
get
can do that.
us. Stop before the Vulcans come get us. But no, I think it's interesting because this is a niche in African American fiction that we don't see a lot. So I like the fact that you have delved into this and done it in a believable way since you kind of lived it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Pegasus was, like I said, I wrote it in the 80s or started it back then. And the thing was that, of course, when Star Trek came out and all that kind of stuff, we only see one black person in the future.
Right.
My thing was like, what do they
It,
have planned for us
it
that
was
we don't
LeVar
make it
Burton.
into the future?
It was
A lot
LeVar
of
Burton,
times,
the blind black guy that was flying the spaceship.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
a lot
even
of
before that,
times
it was
in the future we don't exist. In some
we don't
science
exist.
fiction, we don't
Absolutely.
exist at all.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
guess we just got what eliminated. But
Yeah,
some of it
it's
we're
like,
not
go
there.
to the future, no black
Yeah.
people. So I wanted to write a story that would highlight Black people for one thing,
Okay.
and I also took a look, and it was like when I wrote it, it was going to be about my great grandkids era. So I looked far enough into the future, but I didn't want to write a book that was like 10, 20 years in the future because that's too soon. I didn't want to write one that was hundreds of years in the future because that's too far away.
Mm-hmm.
That's more fantasy than science fiction because you really can't imagine. Think of it now. Well, here we are, 2021. Think of uh, the 1500s. Would anybody have thought about planes? You know, would anybody have thought about cell phones? They even thought about phones. So,
I
when you
think it's
jump
fun to look at.
hundreds of years in the
I think
future,
it's fun to look at futuristic TV shows like Back to the Future was supposed to predict certain things, and
Mm-hmm.
now we look back at it and laugh.
and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and the whole self-tying shoes, people actually went to work to do that, to make those
Mhm.
shoes because they wanted to make it come true. Some of the things that we have today came came about because of Star Trek, cell phone, things like that. If you talk to the scientists, they tell you, yeah, I seen that in Star Trek, and that was the thing I wanted to make happen. I
Mm.
wanted to make the communicator happen. And what do we have? We have cell phones.
Yeah, my
You
husband
know,
talks about that all the time. I'm like, okay, that Star Trek is a fantasy, hon. That's what I say. It's not real,
but it's coming. But it's coming
but it's
true. It is coming true.
coming true.
We have people living in space stations. You
This
know,
is true.
Yeah, but I am not going to that hotel in the sky. I will not.
well,
They can stay
my
up
thing
there.
about that is, I don't think the first real permanent commercial uh, space station is going to be a hotel. It's going to be a prison.
Oh,
Okay, in Pegasus,
You know
that's
what?
what.
That's not hard to believe.
no,
Uh
they
huh.
might put
I
the
can see
worst
what
criminals up
happened.
there, but
Because there's no way to come
and
back. There's
leave
no way to
them.
You
escape.
can't escape.
Yeah, well, you're only going to send them on a
You
one-way
can't
trip,
escape.
and there's no way to escape. You know,
Well,
you don't give them a
that would be
spacesuit.
an interesting storyline for a book. The
That's my
prisoners
next
are
book.
in space and they
that
figure
that
out how
that's
to
a
escape.
prequel.
They've
That
devised a plan to escape. That would be interesting.
that's a
Uh,
prequel to Pegasus. I'm working on.
okay.
And so Pegasus, for one thing, was the idea of having Black people in space. The other thing was during the Reagan time, we had the SALT treaties, which was the Strategic Arm Limitation Treaty. And I was asked, what did I think about nuclear war? And I would say, well, we won't have nuclear war because we have no place to go. But the minute we find some place to go, another planet, because no one wants to live in the same camp for forever. But the
Mhm.
minute we find another place to go, oh, all bets are on,
Right. Right.
and it won't necessarily be the major countries that gets involved, like at the time Russia and the United States or China or something like that. You're going to have other countries or other actors who will have acquired nuclear weapons, the technology, and they may be quite happy with nuking somebody. So,
Mhm.
and once it starts, that's going to be all out destruction. So Pegasus is the name of the spaceship that they build to go to Alpha Centauri, because it only travels at light speed, and that's the nearest star system, which we now found there are planets around the Alpha Centauri system. When I wrote this, they didn't find a single planet out there, but now we're finding dozens and hundreds of planets around star systems. And in order to get to these star systems, you'll have to travel at the speed of light. In fact, you have to
Mhm.
travel multiple times the speed of light because the next nearest star is like 25 light years away.
Mhm.
So, it, but this
So
is the
you
next
seem like
step.
you are a real science person too.
Yeah.
Astronomy, and it sounds like you really are into that. Like
Oh,
I
I
know
am.
some things, but only like the general stuff. Um,
Well, I'm actually a computer software engineer, computer programmer.
oh, okay,
So
So
you do know a
okay.
little bit about
Mhm.
futuristic stuff.
yeah, but I know a bit about different things because I spend my time looking at all these different uh, ideas, And when you write science fiction, you see something that somebody is talking about developing, and you imagine, where could I take this? What would be the logical step of this development of this idea? And the thing with science fiction is, it's not only the science, but how does it affect society? There are two sides of science fiction writing. One is the technology, and two, how does that technology affect people?
Okay.
And so Pegasus is born out of that. The cover of Pegasus is Heart and Soul Nebula,
Hmm.
because it's a story about love,
Oh, okay.
heartbreak, and the idea of, once we do nuke the world, are we going to be alone in space? Are we going to, can we be alone? Does the human condition allow us to actually exist outside of other people? Or is there always going to be that need to find somebody? And so when the spaceship gets launched, there's only two people on it, uh, Zach and Zuri. Now Zach is a communication guy. He's just a nobody, an indentured worker for the company. And in the future, companies run the world. So we go to these international, multinational companies, and they now run the world. Which now we
Well,
have
we're there
Amazon, and
now. That's what's
yes, we are.
happening now.
Yes, we are. That's why I said I projected this thing for 2050, so to speak,
Okay.
about that time period, because I could see back then where society was headed. And now we're getting to that point. We have multinational companies. These multinational companies control the world. You
Right.
can't do much to China because Walmart gets all their material from China. So we can be mad at China, but we can't cut China off. Walmart won't
Mm-hmm.
let,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, all these different companies that are multinationals, they actually control the government. You want to do
Right,
something
right. They're a
against
lot more
Facebook?
powerful than the government
Yeah,
because you have to use these other tools to communicate. You don't use the government to communicate. And because we use them to communicate, they have all the information on us, everything. They know when we get up in the morning, they know when we go to bed, they know what we eat, they know what we read, they know what we're searching for, so they know what we're thinking about. And
right.
if you put too much information in there, they can end up using it against you. I'm always really limited on my searching because I know everything's being stored and everybody's being tracked.
Well, they look at my search history. I search for the most random stuff. I'll think about something and then I'll search for it. So they can't find any patterns on me.
But then it comes up, you search for something, and then it comes up, they try to sell you whatever you search for.
Right,
It is
right.
immediately
Well,
Instantly,
showing on your
instantly.
thing. On
well,
your
James, we only have a few minutes left, but I did want to ask you. You write the type of fiction that a person can't just sit in front of their computer and start typing. And it sounds like it takes some research. It takes a little studying. What is your advice to somebody who wants to get into, whether it be the crime genre or the science fiction genre? What's some advice that you would give to somebody who wants to write this type of story?
Start from a place that you know. Start from something that you know about, and something that you care about, because that makes the research a lot easier. If you start with something you have no idea of, you're going to have to do a lot more research, a lot more reading. And even as you're writing, keep researching. I spend a lot of time down the rabbit hole because I come up with an idea and I want to see, okay, how does this work? And then, hours later, I know all about that subject and I write one paragraph about it in the story. So, but you have to do that. That's
Right.
the idea of getting the information out, and you never know when you're going to use it again. You
Better to
know,
over prepare than under prepare, right?
right?
now,
All
do you
right.
self-publish your books or do you have a
Yes.
publisher?
No, no. I'm also a publisher. I started my own publishing company because I figured I could help other people. And I'm going to give you a quick shot of my publishing company if I can find it. Nah, it's
Okay.
not on here. Let's see. No, it's not on this one. It all depends on which Zoom I go on at to which background show. But my
Okay.
publishing company is Rock Hill Publishing, LLC, and the website is rockhillpublishing.com. And you
Okay.
can find my book there. You can find, I think we got like 16 books out now. I did 5 other authors this year, thanks to COVID.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Are they all
COVID
in the
was
same
good to me.
genre?
Oh, no, no. We publish sci-fi, we publish fantasy, we publish romance, and we publish adult fiction, historical
Okay.
fiction, adult fiction. I also have a fantasy book, so let me set
Okay.
that up. This is
All right. The
book one of
Emerald
a
Lady.
book one of a 3-part series. When you
Okay.
start writing a book, sometimes you find you have more story than book. So you wind up
Mhm.
writing a series because the characters just start lending themselves to a bigger, wider storyline than what you.
Oh, your sound went off.
I'm gonna see why they stop talking.
Did my son go off?
Yeah, your sound went off
Happened?
for a few seconds. Well, we couldn't
Oh,
hear it
okay.
all. Mhm. It
All
was
right.
like your lips were moving, but nothing was coming out. That's really good. And it's good to have a series as far as being a fiction author because what it keeps your readers buying your books. If the story
Right.
is interesting, I don't like it when people just cut a book off. Like they wrote one book, but they decide they're going to make it into 3 books and they just chop it off. Like, okay, what?
She's
That
telling
don't
the
make
truth
sense.
right there. It happened.
I don't
Well,
like
it
that.
happened, but sometimes, if you're really writing a series and you start writing the one book and you think about a series, you should start planning out the rest of the series then.
Right.
Mhm.
Don't
Right,
just don't stop in the middle of telling your story talking about
right,
stay tuned for part 2. Oh,
right,
I hate
right.
that.
Yeah,
Because that to
yeah.
me, that's like you tricking me as an insult. I'm not gonna buy anymore.
Oh, well, every book needs an ending. Okay, even
Yes,
if it's in a series, every
yes.
story needs an ending.
The ending,
And
Yeah.
as a
right.
publisher, if you send me a story that don't have an ending, I'm not interested.
Right.
And
Every
I
story
don't
should
care
have a
what books.
as
beginning,
an
a
Yeah,
editor, if
middle,
you
and
send
an
me a
end.
story, if
yeah.
you as an editor, if you send me a story that doesn't have an ending, I'm gonna be mad. Because I'm one of those people who keeps looking at the pages and I'm like, there's only 10 pages left. How are they gonna wrap this story up?
Yeah,
Some
that's the
do,
other
some
thing.
wrap it up pretty quick. Some
No,
I
wrap
call
it
it
up
the
not
pretty
falling
quick.
off the cliff ending. You come
right.
to a part where you have nothing else to write, and all of a sudden, bam, the story ends. You push the character off a cliff.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Well, um, your books really sound very interesting. I'm going to go online and check them out. Are they available on Kindle and paperback
They're available everywhere:
everywhere? Okay.
paperback, hardcover, ebooks,
Okay.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
You go to the website, you get them there too.
Well, I'm going to check it out. I really haven't read much sci-fi, but we've had several sci-fi authors on over the last several months, and I want to give it a try. So,
Well, read
um,
Pegasus. It's not your everyday uh, flying in space, laser fight type of sci-fi. It goes
It's not
okay.
very
Star
deep.
Wars.
It goes very deep.
Okay. Well, James, thank you for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV, and much success with your publishing company. Is Rock Hill Publishing, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Rock
And
Hill's one word.
Rock Hill is one word.
Right.
Okay.
And I put
All right.
your websites in the chat. So make sure you go in the chat and say hello to the people. And hopefully they'll be able to click on the link and support these books.
Thank you. Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank
It's
you. It
been a
was wonderful
pleasure.
meeting you.
Thank you. And if you didn't hear about the Black Authors Matter TV Awards, this show is the last show where the guests are included for this year's awards.
Yoo-hoo, I
So
made it.
you'll be you just made it. So you'll be included in we have a category of, we put mystery, thriller, sci-fi, fantasy all together. And I think there's about 10 authors in the category. So you'll get an email in the next 24 hours explaining the process and sending you the link to the voting page so you can share it with people. It doesn't get turned
Okay.
on until March 15th, but people can share it. And at midnight, 12:01 is when it's set to be open.
And I will be voting for myself. So just to
Yes,
let
you
everybody
can
know.
vote for yourself.
Nothing wrong. If you don't vote for you, how do you expect anybody else to vote for you? You
Right.
vote for
I'll
Vote for
vote for
you.
myself. I'll also
Vote-
vote for other people, but let
Okay.
them know I'll be voting for me. I'm
Vote
not
for
ashamed of
yourself.
that.
That's right. Okay, James, thank you so much for being a guest on the show, and good luck with everything you're doing.
Thank you. And good luck to you too. And I love your show.
Oh, well, thank
Have a
you.
good night.
You have a good night. Thanks.